All right, today we are diving into something called the DVMS journey. Now, stick with me because this is all about how we can finally tame the chaos of our digital world. It's a really powerful way to bring some serious order and clarity to organizations, even the super complex ones. So let's get into it. So, does this feel familiar? You know, that sense that your organization is just this tangled mess of different systems, different teams, different processes, and nobody's quite speaking the same language? It's such a common problem, and it leads to all sorts of inefficiency and risk. If you're looking at this and thinking, yep, that's us, then you are definitely in the right place. And here it is. This is our map for getting out of that mess. This is the DVMS framework. Now, I know, at first glance, it looks like a lot, but I want you to think of it as a clear, step-by-step path that takes you from that digital chaos we just talked about to a place of unified, evidence-driven governance. We're going to walk through it piece by piece, so don't you worry. So what is the big problem we're really trying to solve here? Well, we can call it the governance gap. And really, it's the huge challenge of trying to get measurable resilience and accountability and, the big one, compliance, when all the digital parts of your business just aren't talking to each other. You know, the ultimate goal of this whole journey is pretty simple to say, but man, it is incredibly hard to pull off. It's all about building bridges between departments, right? Tearing down those walls, those silos, so you can create one single, reliable source of truth that everyone in the entire organization can actually trust and build upon. Okay, so you can't build a house on a shaky foundation, right? The DVMS journey is exactly the same. So let's take a look at the first steps, how this whole thing gets started. Let's go back to our map and zoom right in on the beginning. We're looking at the first two big stages, the foundation and the core engine. This is where it all begins. It's the absolutely crucial starting point, where big picture strategy gets translated into something real, something you can actually act on. Now, the really smart thing here is that we're not trying to reinvent the wheel. The foundation actually uses established, trusted frameworks that are already out there, things like NIST and ISO, as a kind of common language. Then, the core engine takes your strategy and breaks it down into what are called minimum viable capabilities, or MVCs. Just think of these as the 7 essential building blocks for your organization, covering everything from your people and policies to your tech and your data. All right, so our foundation is poured and the engine is built. Now it's time to turn the key and actually bring this whole system to life. We're moving out of the world of static plans and into the world of active, living, breathing processes. And this is where things get really interesting. See how we move from a straight line into a loop? We're looking at the very heart of the system now. That's the operational loop. And then there's this really crucial cultural layer that's wrapped all around it. This operational loop, this is the engine of your day-to-day business. It's a constant feedback process. You create value for your customers, you protect all your important stuff, your assets, your data, and you deliver on what you promised. And this isn't a one-and-done kind of thing. It's a non-stop cycle of doing and improving. And now we get to the cultural layer. I know that might sound a little fluffy or abstract, but this analogy is just perfect. Think of it like a GPS for how your entire organization behaves. It's not just about what's written down in some policy binder. It's about watching how work actually gets done, day in and day out. So how does this GPS work? Well, it's powered by something called the 3D knowledge model, or 3DK. It basically acts like a sensor for the whole company, and it maps 3 critical things: behavior, what are people actually doing; communication, how are they talking about the work; and intent, what's the why behind their actions. For instance, is a developer skipping a security check because they're trying to hit a deadline, or is it because they just don't get the policy? The 3DK helps you finally see the gap between what you say you do and what you really do. So we've built a system, we've turned it on, but how in the world do we know if it's actually working? Well, this final phase is all about measurement. It's about proving the outcome. Let's head back to our map for the final leg of the journey. This is where all that hard work up front starts to pay off, big time. We're zooming in on the evidence mechanism and, of course, the ultimate outcome. This is what I like to call the show your work part of the process. The evidence mechanism, using something called QO/QM testing, takes all that raw performance data and transforms it into what's called assured evidence. This is the game changer. It's not just a bunch of numbers anymore. It's trustworthy, verifiable proof that your systems are doing what you claim they're doing and that you're hitting your compliance goals. And this, right here, this is the whole point. The DVMS journey isn't just some theoretical exercise you do on a whiteboard. No, it's designed from the ground up to produce real, tangible, trustworthy outcomes that actually matter to the business. So, what do you get at the end of all this? 3 incredibly powerful things. First, continuous compliance. That means no more of those panicked last-minute fire drills right before an audit. Second, audit efficiency. Just imagine your next audit not being this dreaded, disruptive event, but just a simple, smooth validation of what you already know is true. And finally, all of this builds trusted regulatory outcomes, creating real confidence with regulators, with your partners, and with your customers. So, let's just pull back for a second and look at the whole journey one last time. You see, we start by building on trusted frameworks, then we fire up the system with these operational and cultural loops, and finally we generate that assured evidence that leads to outcomes you can actually trust. It's a complete integrated system for doing digital governance the right way. And that pretty much wraps up our tour. Looking at this whole path from start to finish, it leaves us with one really important question to ask ourselves. In your own organization, right now, where's the weakest link in this chain? Thinking about that, well, that's the first step on your own journey toward a much more unified and resilient future. Thanks for joining me.